Now, when it comes to tiny mics, Hollyland is pretty much the go-to. Good quality audio, tiny mics, great battery life, and usability. This was the Lark M2, and this is the brand new Lark M2S. Now in this video, we're not only going to put the Lark M2 up against the Lark M2S. Now this was known as the button mic, so we are going to see if this replaces that or if this is just a new addition, because they did call it an S. And that is because I don't think this is to replace the button mic. And not just that, I am going to tell you why you need a mic like this. And this is why. This is the brand new Nikon Z6 III. Picture looks okay, audio sucks. That's the problem with camera audio. And what gets even worse is when I walk back. It sounds terrible. Now connect the Lark M2S. Sounds amazing, right? So much better. I can even stand over here. Don't even have to shout. This is me filming with an iPhone. Still sounds pretty average. When I walk back, same problem. All you got to do is plug in this tiny phone receiver. These mics automatically connect even to the phone receiver. Now we're back to good audio. And I can stand over here, or here, even here. Okay, so it's pretty clear that these mics do give you great audio. So let me give you the rundown on what comes in the combo package, which is what I have. It comes with two receivers. One for your camera that you plug in with a TRS cable that is supplied, and it comes with a USB-C receiver for your smartphone. And if you do have an older iPhone with Lightning, it does come with a USB-C cable to Lightning, and it does come with two transmitters, the tiny mics themselves. This is so you can mic up two different talents. Also, you can choose on the receiver by tapping the button whether you want to record stereo or mono audio. Recording stereo will record one mic to the left channel and the other mic to the right channel, allowing you in post-production to pull those two audio feeds separately. The tiny wheel on the receiver allows you to adjust the gain. As a rule of thumb, and I advise this to almost every single person, your best bet is to always turn the gain down in camera and then rather turn up the gain on the receiver itself. Don't have the gain set to maximum on the camera and try and turn down the receiver audio via the wheel. Now it does have amazing noise cancelling as well. In actual fact, I'm running noise cancelling right now, but I am going to do a test, a pretty cool test just now to show you. If the light is blue on the transmitter, that means there is no noise cancellation applied. If the light is green, that means there is noise cancellation applied. Now you can activate that by tapping the transmitter button itself to activate the noise cancellation, but you can also do it on the receiver. In actual fact, the reason I'm using noise cancelling right now is because we've got a storm outside and it is absolutely noisy sitting over here. Now it does have a mobile app that allows you to connect and you can adjust the noise cancellation and the strength of the noise cancellation, but straight out of the box is pretty much where you want it to be. You don't want it to be too aggressive and you don't want it to be too much on the minimum side. My recommendation is leave it as it is unless you really need to fiddle with it. Now what is pretty cool with the new Lark M2S is that the smaller side is actually the microphone and the bigger side is what goes on the opposite side of your shirt or your jacket. Unlike previously, it was magnet based and it fitted a little bit differently where the larger part was on the outside. Now the mic is held on by this kind of rubber band. However, this rubber band is made of titanium, so it is extremely strong and it clamps very, very well. Also, if you look between the mic as well as the, call it the battery side of the microphone, there is a little rubber feet on either side with a little bit of grip. So it is pretty tough and it's not going to fall off anyone. Now, much like the previous version, the case itself does hold something like 2 charges or 2.5 charges. Now, I've tried to test the battery life on these as much as I can, and I've used them on shoots that have lasted me literally 3-4 hours of someone talking, and they've never gone flat. However, as a creative in the industry, what usually happens is you take the mic out and the receiver out, you do the job. When you're done with the job, you put it back in. The case charges up the mic and the receiver again. So you've always kind of got a fully charged unit, so you never really run dry. Now, there are a few things that you may see as a con when it comes to this, and I believe as a creative that's telling you about this product, I think you should know. You can hear the chaos over here. There's a lot of banging, the doors and everything is just going mad with the storm outside. So I hope this is doing really well. There is no internal recording due to the size of this, so there's no USB-C port on the transmitter itself on the microphone that you can just plug into your computer and pull off a safety file. So as long as the audio is getting to the receiver and going into camera, you are safe on that aspect. But if you are going to have potential dropouts, you're not going to get a backup over here like you may on the Lark Max or the DJI or some of the Rode mics. With that said, obviously there's no 32-bit float internal recording. Pretty obvious. Now the previous mic did have the grid or the microphone on the side of the mic, so you could actually point it out to the side if you were miking someone up with a tie or whatever it may be. This microphone is facing forward, so it's facing directly this way, making it a little bit more difficult to hide it underneath clothing. The receiver's hot shoe doesn't have a clamp like before, so it kind of needs to go onto the hot shoe of your camera for a nice tight snug fit. If you are going to be trying to mount it onto a camera cage or a side handle, it does just pretty much slip right off. But does all of this really make a difference in a real world test? Rich here from the future. To be honest, when it comes to audio, there's a lot to remember. I filmed all of that during a storm, and we'll go back to that now, but I must tell you that not only is the mic audio important, which does relate to your environment, and today this sounds so much better than before. But what's just as important is music, sound effects, stock footage, and so much more in your edits. And thanks to today's sponsor, which is Soundstripe, I can make this video for you. Soundstripe is a music licensing platform that I personally use. They even have stock footage. Their pro plan that I use allows me to not only license music for my YouTube channel, but for all my commercial work that I do for my clients. Yes, all of it. Also, they have a super cool AI song editing feature you have to check out. I'll drop a card over here because I did a full review on it. That's how epic it is. Soundstripe can hook you up. You can visit www.soundstripe.com/rich. Back to Rich in the past, other time. Lark M2 versus the Lark M2S. So what about sound quality? I'm going to try and give you a real honest test over here and say the same thing in different situations. This is the sound of the Lark M2S plugged directly into my camera with no post-processing and no noise cancellation. This is the sound of the Lark M2S plugged directly into my camera with no post-processing and noise cancellation has been turned on. This is the sound of the previous version of the Lark M2 plugged directly into my camera with no post-processing and noise cancellation is turned off. This is the sound of the previous Lark M2 plugged straight into my camera with no post-processing and noise cancellation is turned on. This is the sound of the Lark M2S plugged directly into my camera with no post-processing and noise cancellation has been turned on. This is the sound of the previous Lark M2 plugged straight into my camera with no post-processing and noise cancellation is turned on. Now to make the test a little bit fun for noise cancellation, as you can hear it's quite noisy right now. I've got a fan over here. I've got my phone over here playing some background noise in a pub, very softly. This is the sound with no noise cancellation. This is the sound with noise cancellation turned on. This is the previous version of the Lark M2 with a little bit of noise around us. This is the sound that you hear with no noise cancellation turned on. This is the sound of the previous version of the Lark M2 with noise cancellation turned on with all of this noise. This is the sound with noise cancellation turned on. This is the sound of the previous version of the Lark M2 with noise cancellation turned on. When mounting these mics, in reality, the M2S is obviously a lot smaller because you only see this side. Now with the previous M2, you could pretty much mount the mic anywhere you wanted to. With the new M2S, you do need an edge. So the M2S does have some form of limitation when mounting it, so just keep that in mind. Right now with the t-shirt, I would mount the M2 over here, giving you a much deeper sound. Right now, because I have just a collar on the shirt, I have to mount the M2S here. Obviously mounting closer to the throat gives you a more nasally sound as opposed to mounting closer to the chest. Now when it comes to professional situations like corporates or weddings that have collars and jackets, the M2S definitely gives you a much neater kind of look and a more professional feel as opposed to a larger mic. However, that does take away from the fact that a lot of people have been branding their Lark M2 mics with logos, obviously because of the sticker situation with the Lark M2. Now, if you haven't seen my Lark M2 review, head over here. I'll drop a card over here and I'll put a link in the description below as well that you can check out the Lark M2 review. Also, what is really nice with the Lark M2S, the green and blue little light is actually hidden, so I can only see it right now if I look down at the mic. However, with the M2, the previous version, you would see that green or blue light right now. So if you're not into seeing a bright little light and you're not hiding the mic on someone, this is a much neater option. So what about range? 300 meters, 1,000 feet. Hollyland claims that on both of these. Now that is line of sight, because as soon as you turn your back, things don't always go to plan when it comes to wireless microphones. And that's not a Hollyland thing, it's an everybody thing. Here's a little range test between the two, line of sight and not line of sight. Pretty interesting test, check this out. I'm going to compare the Lark M2 versus the Lark M2S, and we've got a measuring wheel here. And this is just because I had some inconsistencies with it, so I don't remember having this with the Lark M2, and I think the M2S has lesser range, so this is going to prove that point. I'm not putting the little windscreen dead cat over it just so we can give it the best possible option. So first test is I'm going to be walking away from the camera with my back to it. So the mic is here, so it's going to be no line of sight. And we're going to see how far we're going to get. I'm going to measure it with this. I'm going to reset it, and here we go. Michelle, she has the headphones on, so she's just going to shout as soon as she hears me lose connection. And hopefully that's not too soon, because we're only at 10 meters. So she's shouting yet. You can still hear me clearly, no breaking. Weird. Less than this distance the other day, and it was breaking, which is a bit strange. So still good, all still good. Is it breaking? But it's still breaking up. Okay, so at 22 meters, 24 meters, it's breaking. Let's see if it's worse. Okay, now it's between 24 and 30 meters, it's obviously extremely, extremely bad. So now what we're going to do is, obviously now it's perfect, correct? So zoom in and just focus on me again. So obviously then you can see me. So I'm now currently 29 meters away. So now I'm just going to walk back while Michelle's still recording, and she can still hear me. You can still hear me, right? Okay. So she can still hear me and no breaking up. I'm assuming we're going to get good distance over here. Let's see, 44 meters, 45 meters. Now this is still, I would say anything up until here, you would probably never need more line of sight. Hello, Cody. Yeah. And you can still hear me clearly? Okay, she can still hear me. And we're only at 60 meters now. They claim, I'll put it over here on the screen, but I'm sure it was 300 meters or something crazy, 200 meters, which I highly doubt anyone's ever going to go past the 100 meter mark. What are we on? 68 meters. And we're still going. I'm going to stop here by this log. 74, 75, and she can still hear me clearly? Yep, she can still hear me. So we're at 76, 75 meters, and it still works perfectly. All right, so previous version, Lark M2. I'm going to come stand next to the mic over here, and we're going to do the exact same thing next to the camera. And we're going to walk it out, no line of sight, and Michelle's just going to shout when she hears that there is breaking up on the mic, and let's see if it does the same. So we 13 meters, 14 meters. The last one was between, I think, 22. Breaking up already. Okay, breaking up now. Is it back? Coming and going. Okay, so that's at 20 meters. 18 to 20 meters, it starts breaking up as the other one. Okay, let me go to the other one. We were at 18 meters over here. So let's go to about the same point. Bad. Okay.
Hello, Daddy. Just now I'm gonna play Fortnite, and then for supper I'm gonna eat yummy pizza with bacon on. And then we're gonna do. And then before do-doing time, I'm gonna watch Fortnite. I love you, Daddy. Love you like 1,000. I love you too much.
The verdict. Honestly, I don't see the Lark M2S as a major upgrade from the M2. I don't think it was Hollyland's intention to make this much better than this. And I think that's why Hollyland didn't call this the M3, it's the M2S. It's an addition to this. To be quite honest, I would suggest anyone to have probably both of these because mounting this anywhere is really easy. However, mounting this neatly is really, really professional. Most creators that I know are always needing a system where they need more than 2 mics. So it would be pretty clever of you to pick up 2 different ones. I would never suggest buying 2 of these, but I'd suggest buying 1 and 1. The M2 kind of looked like a new clip-on mic, whereas the M2S looks like a wireless lapel mic. I think at the end of the day, because the audio, I don't personally hear much of a difference, and I truly don't think there is much of a difference. I think Hollyland has kept almost everything as close as possible to the M2 because it was such a great success, but they've changed the form factor because I think a lot of people were looking for something a little bit smaller and a little bit less obvious. And they've done extremely well with the Lark M2S. Hope you enjoyed this review of testing them out. If there's something that I've left out that I haven't tested or that you're unsure of, drop it in the comments below and hopefully I can help you out. Thanks for watching wherever you're in the world. Have a good day, good evening, good night. Goodbye.